In the last episode, we arrived in the very charming colonial city of Queretaro. We then arrived in the historic center of the city and started walking the streets, discovering much of the beautiful rustic architecture the city has to offer. I then stumbled across one of the many beautiful coffee shops in this city. Here, I was offered more than just coffee, but an actual presentation of the coffee making process, including grounding of the beans in front of me. Mexico is known to be one of the major producers of coffee in the world, so it is common to find amazing coffee shops in this country. Afterward, we check out what I think is the most iconic historic structure of the city, and that is Templo de Santa Rosa de Viterbo, dedicated to a saint who lived in Italy in the 1200s. After this, we walk back to Jardin Zenea, which is practically in the center of this colonial downtown. From Jardin Zenea, we launch our discovery of the eastern side of this colonial center, which, in my opinion, is more scenic in some ways, with its windier streets creating very interesting viewpoints. Just like the other side, we are blessed with many businesses nestled in these cute rustic structures. This makes for a very enjoyable walk and also gives us many options of places to eat and shop in. And then we arrive to Plaza de Armas, which is basically the city's main historical plaza, where we witness what seems to be a political campaign. It was time to distance myself from all of this and continue discovering Plaza de Armas and the rest of this aesthetically beautiful downtown. When we arrived to the other side of the plaza, there was such a contrast of sounds, as you could still hear the political campaign going on in the background while live music was being performed in front of a restaurant. As I started leaving the plaza to continue my walk towards the famous aqueduct, I could not help but admire the elegant restaurants in the area. Now it was time to continue our walk towards the aqueduct, which from this point was about 8 blocks away. Shortly after, we run into a statue dedicated to José Luis Sierra Salcedo, a Queretaro native who was a professor, a poet, an editor, and even a radio host. Alright guys, now that we're in an area with less noise, we are in the center of Querétaro. This city is one of the most beautiful colonial cities in Mexico, but I have to say,
There are a lot of cities in Mexico that give this city a run for its money. But I would say this is definitely, in my opinion, one of the top 10. Very clean. I feel very safe here. I'm not saying things can't happen, but overall, just an amazing city. A lot of parts look just like Europe almost. A lot of beautiful cafes, restaurants inside these beautifully preserved colonial buildings. Definitely a pleasure to visit. The city does a very good job in manicuring a lot of its places, keeping it clean, as you can see. I love the colors. Now we're pretty much in the tropical zone, so you see a lot of these beautiful flowers, sometimes purple, sometimes red, sometimes orange. And you get visitors here from all over the world, especially, of course, a lot of Americans, Canadians, but also a lot of Europeans. I've even seen a lot of Europeans here that come and open up shop, create their own little restaurant. A lot of them that come from Europe, believe it or not, they stay here, they fall in love with the country, they open up their business, and then they don't go back. I don't blame them. Cities like this are captivating. Now we're getting to the quieter part of Centro. We're kind of going towards the, this would be the eastern side of the downtown. We're going to be walking towards their famous arches, which is their old aqueduct. They call it arcos, which just means arches, but it's basically their old aqueduct that they used to use because this has always been one of the major cities in Mexico. And a lot of the major cities in Mexico have an old aqueduct system, kind of a copy of the Roman system, because, you know, Mexico was colonized by Spain, and they brought a lot of Roman ideas, of course.
And on the way to the arches, we pass by the famous monument dedicated to Apostol Santiago el Mayor. As well as the Queretaro sign.
You see this all over Mexico. You've seen a lot of the main plazas. People are selling their little artisan crafts. Really beautiful. The thing that you see very common in Mexico is what they call, I believe, the Michoacana doll. This is exactly what you see here. Very typical, very beautiful. I've already bought a few from before, so I don't need that right now, but it's still very beautiful to see. They come in all sizes and colors. But you know, Mexico loves to celebrate their colors. That's what makes it such a beautiful... One of the things that makes it such a beautiful country is how colorful it is. And you can definitely see this celebration of colors in the buildings. You know, sometimes yellow, sometimes green, sometimes blue, sometimes pink. It gives it such a lively ambiance. It's a much bigger version of the Michoacana doll that I was talking about. I've seen so many different versions of it, but it's definitely very, very representative of the culture. We're about 5-6 blocks, maybe 8 blocks away from the beginning of the arches or the aqueduct. Definitely worth seeing. Restaurants here all over Querétaro, and pretty much any colonial city you go around Mexico. You get these gorgeous, just beautiful artistic places. Look at the attention to detail.
Stay tuned for the next episode as we finally reach Querétaro's famous aqueduct, or Los Arcos as they call it. And to top it off, I find a nice restaurant with a captivating view of Los Arcos where I am able to finally indulge in my favorite dish in Mexico. All this before I finally start heading out to the mega city of Mexico City, or CDMX as they call it.